You are now tuned in to the Chaotic Culture Podcast.
It's the KKP on your mother flipping airways. Hear the name ringing through the halls and the stairways. You were listening to a pod that can segue. All the latest topics guaranteed to fill your headspace. It's a safe place to voice your opinion. Say what you feel just like you're a kid again. Kid to pro and friends, black as obsidian. Chaotic culture, that's the world we living in. So what's the word?
Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast, the pod where chaos rules and black culture is supreme. The Chaotic Culture Podcast is brought to you by Patreon.com. Please go and subscribe to Patreon.com/Chaotic Culture Pod to get bonus episodes, content, and of course to help keep the lights on. And you can subscribe today for just $3. Once again, we appreciate your support. If you've never checked out this podcast before, just to give you a little insight, this podcast will deep dive into modern black culture and how millennials and Gen Z, and I guess Gen Alpha now, can navigate the crazy parts from finances, black business highlights, black professionals, community, content creators, home ownership, HBCU, sports, black nerdom, anime, wrestling, and especially black music. If it encompasses black culture, of course, we are going to cover it. Live from the 410, I am the host and the creator of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. This is your boy, Ked the Pro, aka the Calculated Millennial, aka the Encore Presentation.
Can I get an encore? Do you want more?
AKA your favorite toxic adjacent king, Ked the Poet, Ked the Closer, and all that good stuff. 843 is me. Baltimore is the place to be. Always chaotic, never toxic most days. And back again, once again, with your favorite black culture highlights and black culture shenanigans. And with me today, we have a special guest because once again, it is Black History Month. So I've already said that we were going to highlight some black people who are doing amazing things in the community. Once again, happy Black History Month. Every time I say that, you're going to hear those gunshots. I'm sorry. You already know. So with that in mind, guys, I'm not going to get too much in the way of her introduction. I'm going to let her introduce herself, and then I will maybe kind of say how we actually met, because it's kind of crazy. But anyway, for those who are not familiar with this young lady, I would like to introduce you to Miss Daphne Benford-Smith, Esquire. Please go ahead and introduce yourself, ma'am.
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me again. So yeah, I'm Daphne. I am an attorney, and I'm known, I guess, on socials as being Big Esquire Bay. And so yeah, I work for Hold On Law Partners. I'm also vice president of Studio Maho. And so I get to work with some really cool creatives all the time, representing them or just being on the creative side of things. So I really enjoy what I do and I love it. I love it.
Thank you for that. So I want to throw in there first and foremost. Yes, she is an indie guy, so y'all already know I had to include her. So,
I knew you were gonna bring it up.
you already know. So shout out to indie love, but it's really
I
crazy.
don't believe in indie love, but it's always
Wait a minute. Ouch.
Do the gunshots for that. No, I'm kidding. No. It's just my little running joke, I'm just like, I don't believe in indie love. I give the noobs a hard time, but like when y'all are great, y'all are great. That's what I will say. Like I know some really great noobs out there. So shout out to the good noobs that I'm cool with, and yeah.
The good and only the good, by the way.
Yes, that's the emphasis on the good. Italicized, underlined, in bold. Good.
Yes. Good. So I just wanted to point it out. So me and Daphne and I have actually had interactions through that Cooked app that I guess that the people call X now, but Twitter back in the day.
Yeah.
When we first kind of had our first interactions with each other, and of course through mutual people, through Maho, and of course through Anime After Dark / Blanime and Worst Generation Pod is how I actually, came across Daphne and how I got, a chance to know her. It was really, surprising, I think, because the first time I actually came like face to face with Daphne. I know a lot of people don't know who people's are, faces are when they see them faces, but at DreamCon 2022, I went to introduce myself and she was like, "Oh, I already know who you are." I was just like, "Oh shit. Okay." I was like, all right, cool. Well, that is how I met Daphne. And she's still been a big avid supporter of this podcast and just been
Yeah.
overall pleasant person to be around. So, I had to get her on here. I know it took a little while and a little
Yeah.
finagling, but we are finally here, and that's also why we're kind of a week late. People had things to do, and on top of that, it's kind of glad that we were able to do it on this day because I was low key tired as hell last week. So I ain't gonna
Hmm.
about that, but yeah.
It was something about last week. It had melatonin, but like I really, yeah, no, I know I have a lot of followers on that other app and on Blue Sky and stuff like that. But if I interact with people enough, like eventually I'll remember what they look like.
Mhm.
And so Ked was one of those people that like I was always interacting with, even though he's a shimmy soldier. I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
Wow.
He's a
Wow.
even though he's a shimmy soldier. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I have so many names for the noobs. I'm sorry. Um, I was just like he was always like really cool, very very down to earth, very chill, and I don't know why I thought we met before DreamCon 2022, but I guess that makes sense. And then I saw you again later that year at AWA,
Yes.
because I was there at AWA, and everything too. So yeah, no, I guess we've been seeing a lot of each other the past couple of years at conventions and
Yep.
stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, it was a great opportunity to finally meet her. And then, as she said, yeah, we did meet again later in the year at AWA. That was also quite the experience itself. But uh,
Ooh.
I AWA 2022, a lot of great moments and a lot of wow moments. That's all.
Wild.
Yeah,
Yes.
very, very much so.
Yes. Yeah.
With that, it's always been a good time. I always have fun every time I see Daph. And the only time that I really didn't like get to interact with a panel of hers was in DreamCon 2023, just because the room was small and unfortunately it was packed out. But the main reason I brought her here is because, as you see, she is an attorney. And
Hmm.
of course, we were in talks about trademarks. So we will get to that and we will get more into, Daphne's experience, why she chose the career path that she did. And of course, some hidden gems in between there. But
Yeah.
before we get to that, y'all, I know again I'm a week behind because people were tired, but I do have to at least mention this halftime show at the Super Bowl and why it was important and what we enjoyed about it. But first, I really, really want to talk to Daphne about her mental health as well.
Yeah.
Especially with this week coming up, we always want to make sure that we're good to go, or if there's something on our minds, we are free to speak it here. This is a safe space, so please, please tell us how your mental health has been.
Yeah, honestly, I've been in a great place. I was actually celebrating today because I took that attachment style quiz that's been floating around, and I knew where I was at where when I took it a few years ago.
Mhm.
I had some unresolved issues and stuff like that, but now I'm happy to announce and to say that I have a secure attachment style. And I really am proud of that because I worked really hard to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I worked really hard to get there, so I'm happy about that. But other than that, yeah, it's just been kind of exhausting, but I'm okay. It's one of those things where I've had to just be more intentional about prioritizing rest.
Mhm.
And then also respecting this place where I'm at, mentally and physically, where I am actually exerting my own boundaries, like when where I'm actually saying like, look, I'm not going to allow certain things to come into my life. or I don't know if exerting is the right word, but basically that I am actually exercising. That's the word I was trying to say, exercising my boundaries,
Okay.
and being very intentional about that, and not just allowing any old thing to occur. And that's not necessarily um just that kind of goes across the board. With my career now, I'm getting into a position where I'm getting way more traction, recognition, and clients and stuff like that. So it's kind of being in this place where I'm like, there's just certain things I'm not going to allow
Mhm.
into my work life, because I can see that it's not going to bring me peace. Even though it's like this seems like a great opportunity to do something nice or to do something monumental, I'm still just like, well, I still need to assert my own boundaries here. So there's professional boundaries, friendship boundaries, dating boundaries, like all of those things. I feel like I'm doing a lot better with exercising those, and just really advocating for myself, and being adamant about self-care and prioritizing how I feel about something versus like what I think other people expect of me. So
Mhm.
I would say that I've been in a much better mental place because of that, because that was a thing I struggled with for a long time. But it's not as much of an issue now.
Understandable. Well, you are doing amazing, and it is so good to hear, that you have come to that conclusion, and also that you are setting boundaries for yourself. I think that is really the most important thing to get out of life is just knowing, like, hey, these are my boundaries when it comes to
Hmm.
friendships, professionalism, relationships. It's important to have them, because if you don't know what your boundaries are, sometimes you don't know what can trigger you, or you don't know what is going to be detrimental to you, if you
Yeah.
don't know what they are, if you can't recognize them. So it's important that we all are able to recognize those and set those boundaries, so that way when they're crossed, we know, hey, no, no, absolutely not. This is not one of those
Hmm.
things that I can deal with, and learn to, I don't want to say push it away, but just more so know when something is not going to be good for you, whether it's a red flag, and
Mm.
just be like, yep, I'm stepping away from that because it's not good for my mental, and I have to protect my peace. That is
Yeah.
always important. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I preach it every episode, guys. Just please be sure that you take care of yourself. For me
Yeah.
this week, I have been I've been good. There have been
Yeah.
some confusing things that
Mm.
happened, but Imma just leave it at that.
Okay.
For one, again, we're recording this past Valentine's Day, and if you had a wonderful Valentine's Day, I am definitely happy for you, and happy Love Day. I got a chance to. I didn't go on a date or anything. I'm still single, guys. But still, with that in mind, I did receive one of those like risque texts. You're just like, huh?
Oh, spicy. Well, like
Yeah,
what level of risque are we talking about? Are we talking about like the kind of risque where you're kind of looking at your phone like, would, or is it one of those risque texts where it's like, oh, you are like losing your fucking mind sending me that? Like which one is it? Or is it somewhere in between?
it's somewhere in between. It's like I
Oh.
would, but there's some caveats that
Oh.
come with that. So that's why I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just let God handle that. I will, if push
Ah,
comes to shove, I ain't gonna push. But if it shoves me back, I'm not gonna stop anything from happening. Just
that is so funny.
yeah, but that with that in mind, also I know that for me, Valentine's Day has not always been the best day,
Ooh,
if that
yeah,
makes any sense. Just
yeah.
because, yeah, there's some trauma related to that with a past relationship. I won't
Mm.
go into too much detail, but let's just say that for those of you who have ever had a partner cheat on them, yes, that has happened to me. So
On Valentine's Day?
like right around Valentine's Day. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
not a good. That has never
No,
been
that's
really a
not
good holiday
that's
for me.
not the kind of gift that you want to get.
No, absolutely not. But that being said, I love seeing people who are in love. I love that people get to share that,
Yeah,
and we definitely need more love around here, especially in the climate that we're in right now. So it's
amen.
always, yeah, always important to show love no matter what. That being said, outside of that risque text and outside of me being like bah humbug for Valentine's Day, overall this was a
Gosh.
good yes. Yeah, this was a good week.
You know,
All things considered.
I want to touch on that real quick, if you don't
Right.
mind.
Yeah, no problem.
Because Valentine's for me used to be, and I'm sure a lot, I'm not saying all women because I don't generalize like that, but I'm sure a lot of women can relate to, having like that time period where there's like blues around Valentine's. Maybe some women are still there where they are feeling the blues around this holiday because you're seeing an overwhelming amount of other women that are in relationships, whether it's
Mhm.
with a man, a woman, or whoever that they're with. Like they look happy and in love, right? So it's easy to fall into this mindset or kind of go into like this spiral as women. And I'm sure men deal with this too. I've heard men say that they deal with this as well, but it's a little bit different because obviously women are more pressured by society to be partnered. And so, it's one of those things where it's like, when Valentine's rolls around and if you're single, there's this tendency for most women to feel, down about it, to feel excluded, to feel unloved, or, all of these different feelings that come up, maybe even depressed or anxious and stuff like that. And I had, a time period in my life where I was like that girl that would feel sad around because it reminded me of, oh my gosh, I don't have anybody. I'm single. I feel lonely. I want to take cute pictures and go on a romantic date and all this other stuff. But, you know, I I had a Valentine last year and the year before that, because I was in a relationship. And kind of like what Ked said, I'm not going to go into too many details on that. But, um, I will say that those Valentines were really not all that it was cracked up to be. Like, I've had a few like cool Valentine dates and stuff like that, but those specific Valentines, like the past couple of years, like it was like one of them was like okay at best, but I didn't really have as much fun. This
Mhm.
past Valentine's Day, oh baby, I had a ball by myself. And
Yeah.
I did not feel FOMO. Like I was actually looking at all the couple pictures and I was just like, oh, they're so cute. I'm just so happy for them. And I genuinely felt that way. Like it wasn't even on some like, oh, like that's cute. I'm happy for you. Like it was no saltiness, no jealousy, no FOMO, none of that. Like
Mhm.
I legitimately felt good. I went to a local convention here. Got to see my homie Zeno. Shout out to
Hey.
Zeno. Got to see some other cool people. And I took myself out to eat at one of my favorite spots. Like I like whatever I wanted to buy, I bought it. Like I got this signed poster from Chris Sabat. Let me
Hey.
see that. Yeah, yeah.
No.
So I got two. Actually, he ended up giving me two. But I only paid for one. But he ended up giving me two, so I can get one for
Wow.
my little cousin.
Okay.
Um, I got a signed like giant Pokemon card from the voice actor of Gengar.
Wow.
Like I did not like. I bought myself everything I wanted, and I got a tattoo. It's my first one. Like, and it's a Gengar. You can see
Hey.
it. Yeah. So I had the best freaking Valentine's, and I still had, some admirers send me some sweet messages, which was really nice. But I just had a great time.
That's good. That is good. You had a wonderful Valentine's Day. Me, I was unfortunately working, but
Oh,
still, I for when I could look at pictures, obviously the stuff that I saw, happy for my
mhm.
folk out here who have found love. There was a couple of folk of mine who actually got engaged on Valentine's Day
You
weekend,
know
and it was
what?
like,
Remind me to offline about that.
okay, I got you. I got you. Also, it's funny that you mentioned the tattoo. You just reminded me. I still got to send that pic to mom. I did not do that, so let me go ahead and let her know before she actually watches this episode and finds out. Wait, when did you get that? I'm like, yeah. Let me go ahead and text her that right now. As a matter of fact, but anyway, guys, that's great. It was a great weekend. Nothing, too difficult. Work was work. Obviously, I would work the majority of this weekend, but still,
Yeah.
I think for my mental health, I had no issues, no problems, made
Great.
connections with people, and it was just like, okay, yeah, it's a good weekend. It's work, so it's tiring, but other than that,
Oh yeah.
yeah, nothing really special. With that, we can transition over to the next part of the episode, which is talking about this Super Bowl halftime show. Obviously, there
Hmm.
was a lot of comments, some great, some not so great, and then just some like downright like, did you get it kind of thing.
They didn't
Um,
get
yeah,
it.
the mostly, the biggest thing obviously is that certain people who are
Yes,
discouraged,
yes,
yeah, they completely
yes.
missed the point. But that again,
Yeah.
it wasn't a show for them. Obviously, this is a
Right.
black hip hop artist performing at the Super Bowl during Black History Month. So it's only right, that within the performance he was telling the story. And I know a lot of people wanted to hear like the bigger or some of the past hits and whatnot. And I was like, Kendrick's not in that mind state right now, at least from the way that I
Mhm.
look at it. And I was like, yeah, I know some people wanted to hear some stuff from Damn What You Did Here with DNA and with Humble, but they wanted to
Yeah.
hear more stuff from like Good Kid, Mad City, and
Mhm.
maybe even a couple of other tracks from GNX. But I'm like, yo, he's in the GMX era right now. And then obviously, of course, he's going to, address the elephant in the room. But still,
Mhm.
I caught the message almost immediately, and then I had to go back
Yeah.
and catch a few more Easter eggs. So it was just like, oh, because I saw the big picture, and then afterwards I went back. I'm like, wait, this thing really does look like a video game controller. Oh my god, this
Yeah.
he's inside the Great American Game now. Now I'm
Mhm.
getting it. Thank you, Sam Jackson, for that. So
Mhm.
it was, quite the experience for me. I enjoyed it from top to bottom. I can't tell you how many times I watched it on YouTube because I don't wanna reveal too much of my fandom here, but still, I watched it a good enough times to see, what Easter eggs I can pull out and if there was something that I might have missed. But also just the clips. For me, obviously, the Peekaboo clip was one of the funniest ones. When
Oh,
he
yeah.
was
Yeah, absolutely.
and I knew he would do something like that, but it was still funny to see it. Kendrick has a very, very great sense of humor, and
Oh,
then,
yes.
of course, the we all know the Say Drake, where he's looking directly at the camera. That me and
I
my friends,
just
we saw that, we were like, we just fell out laughing. But
no, literally cried laughing at that part. And I have to say, the only complaint I have about the performance was the sound wasn't that great. And that's
yeah,
my only complaint. The artistic elements of it, it was for us by us. He made his message loud and clear, and whoever just didn't get it, they didn't get it, and they weren't meant to get it. Me being the lawyer that I am, I was specifically nerding out at him mentioning the lawsuit,
mhm,
because a lot of people, and I spoke on another podcast about this, because a lot of people have been asking me, will he be allowed to perform that song? Like, is there anything with Drake filing this lawsuit against UMG, is there anything that's going to prevent Kendrick from performing that song? And I was like, well, no, because there's not an injunction in place, and an injunction is essentially, the court giving a directive to halt, or otherwise not engage in any activity
mhm,
that could potentially cause, a certain level of harm or irreparable harm or injury. And it has to be kind of like an immediate harmful type of situation. Um, and well, in most instances immediate, right? So I wasn't seeing that being the case. The lawsuit is against UMG.
mhm,
Of course, it's not against Kendrick directly, at least not at this point in time. I don't know if that will, if they're going to try and do that now or do something later. I don't know. But there's no injunction in place. And even if Kendrick was a part of the lawsuit and everything like that. I personally can't see a judge saying, "Oh, there's going to be some injury here. Like, let's do this." Um, it's actually funny because there's two sides to this. Like,
mhm,
this is a rap beef, and losing a rap beef is one thing, and that has its own social and cultural consequences, but then you add the legal system in it, so that takes it to like a whole nother level. And so now it's like, okay, you made your social status like slightly worse by doing this.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's something that could potentially hurt the legal aspect of things, because people are like, well, this is a frivolous lawsuit. You're just mad because you lost, and that everybody around the world is saying A minor real loud and all this
Mhm.
other stuff. Even at the Grammys, it's like he swept at the Grammys, had
Yep.
everybody up from their seat, from Beyonce to Taylor Swift, Blue Out, everybody, Billie Eilish, everybody was in the audience singing along to the song.
Right.
It's a cultural phenomenon song at this point, so it's gonna make it harder, I think personally, to prove that there's harm, especially since Drake has obviously, still been touring. He's still
Mm.
been, putting out music. He still obviously has a dedicated and loyal fan base. So I mean, it's kind of just like, just take the L, bro. But I do appreciate, him like hinting at it, because it keeps the audience engaged. They're like, is he
Mhm.
really going to do it? That's been the question leading up to that moment, is he really going to perform this song? Is he really going to do this? With this lawsuit looming over his head, will he do it? And I've been the main one saying, if you know anything about how Kendrick moves, he is absolutely going to do that song. How he's going to do it, I don't know. I had my different theories on how he was going to do it. Of course, he didn't do it exactly the way I thought, but I loved how he teased it.
Mhm.
I love how he brought up the lawsuit, where he's basically just like, "Look, man, like, sue me if you want to, but it's still won 5 Grammys." And it proved the point that undermines a key element of Drake's lawsuit. I want to make that very clear, because the one of the allegations that Drake's legal team is making is that UMG engaged in using bots to further promote this song, to up its streaming numbers,
Yeah.
um in a way that tampered with what it really should have been, right? So
Mhm.
and I guess in his mind, it should have been a lot lower than it was, streaming number wise. And they use these bots to, just kind of tamper with things and make the numbers look bigger than they were. But the way that people reacted to that song at the Grammys and at the Super Bowl is powerful, because it shows, no, this song is actually just a cultural phenomenon, and people actually love the song, and
Right.
they're singing all the lyrics at the biggest, like some of the biggest events of the year. Like that just disproves like his whole point.
Exactly.
It just disproves all of that. So
And it's funny that you mentioned that whole thing, because, like, in the back of my head, I was just like, "Yo, everybody, especially on the A minor part, when it's at the Grammys, and then especially at the Super Bowl, where you hear it, it's like, okay." And then you hear the different videos of people who are in the audience to show, like, no, this isn't piped in sound. This is real. So with that in mind, and I'm thinking to myself, like, man, Drake's whole lawsuit is not only frivolous, it's just, this literally proves that this song is not botted in any way. And even if they somehow manage to prove, like, and I don't think that they can,
mm-mm,
I've just always thought in my head, like, well, Drake, you've also been accused of using bots yourself. Lest
multiple
we remember,
times.
yeah, multiple times, lest we
Yeah.
forget Scorpion, but that's
Yeah.
neither here nor there. I just enjoyed seeing the whole spectacle of it all, and then on top of that, with the whole lawsuit, it's really just, it really still irks me, and we talked about it on a previous episode, but it really irks me because it's like, if somehow, and I seriously doubt this will happen, but if somehow Drake were to come out victorious with this lawsuit, you've now opened the floodgates to what can be viewed as artistic expression and how rappers will go about, especially when it comes
Mhm.
to rap beef. Like, if there is uh situations where, like, they want to say something about this person and they can't put it on wax, that's really going to inhibit the artist in their creative expression. Now, is all creative expression good? No, but still, I'm not one of those people who will, champion limiting an artist or a rap artist or even, a singer from
Mhm.
being, able to create or be, how to express themselves creatively. Goodness gracious, I'm
Yeah.
struggling with my words, but yeah, that's
Yeah, it's just that kind of Sunday.
yeah.
Um,
It really has.
it's Sunday. It's Sunday. Yeah. No, I did bring that up as well. The First Amendment implications, because that was something that UMG has been hinting at in their responses, which I knew they would do, because this is now in federal court. And so it's like, now you're opening the floodgate to the First Amendment coming into play. And there's been a lot of talk, over the years about the role of the First Amendment when it comes to creative and artistic expression. And I think that that's one of the issues, ironically enough, where there's actually bipartisan agreement. You see all of the justices on the Supreme Court, like the current justices, they tend to agree on First Amendment issues. One of their unanimous decisions was a First Amendment case that involved, a chewy dog toy that was created to look like a Jack Daniels bottle, right? So, and it was poking fun at the Jack Daniels brand by using, like, dog references instead of like booze and alcohol references,
Mhm.
right? So, that was one of the cases where the justices actually they actually had a unanimous decision. And so I think that, when you have First Amendment issues come into play with rap artists or any other artists, judges tend to say, well, look, we don't want to limit this person's speech.
Mhm.
And then two, you also have the defamation component, which is like the biggest component at this particular point. And while yes, um defamation, you can bring a defamation lawsuit, it's really hard for a celebrity to win a defamation case. I
Mhm.
mean, they can always file a petition for it, but that burden of proof is like way higher. So you would have to prove that they knew that it was false and that they still intentionally put it out there, like that they had actual knowledge. That's the
Mhm.
the element, that they had actual knowledge that this was a false statement, and that they put it out there, like, for the whole world to see, knowing that it was false, like having readily available information telling them that it's false. And honestly, I don't know that they have anything to prove that that was the case. So
Mhm.
I really don't see that lawsuit going anywhere. If anything, I feel like it was one of those tactics, which, poorly played tactic of, just trying to have like the last word in this rap beef. And say, well, you know what, that's fine, I'll just sue you. Well, no, because your chances of winning are really not that high, to the
Mhm.
point where there are judges that are on Blue Sky that have said that his attorneys should be sanctioned, which is, of course, a pretty bad reprimand for attorneys,
Ooh.
because they're bringing a frivolous lawsuit and they don't understand, like, how they are doing this in the practice of law. And yeah, I'm like, some attorneys, look, the first is coming up, the building rent at their law firm is due. So
Mhm.
they want it paid like everybody else. I mean, so they're not gonna say no unless
Right.
it's just super outrageous.
That's what it sounds like. It's like them lawyers are just like, hey, look, shit. Let's just go ahead and get this bread real quick.
Like,
Great paying us this amount of money. All right, cool. We know this shit ain't gonna fly in court, but why not? That's what
that's
that's
what I
what it sounds
said.
like.
Like, that's why I'm just like, all money ain't good money. I'm just not, I
Mhm.
wouldn't take that case personally, for a number of reasons. But even if I was like, I'm a hardcore Drake fan, I still wouldn't want my favorite artist to file that type of lawsuit and end up in a potentially worse, social position.
Yes.
Um, and that's just my thoughts on that. But otherwise, Kendrick's halftime show was really good. I just love his brand of petty. It matches my own in some
Mhm.
ways. The Serena Crip Walk, excellent touch. No one was expecting that.
Nope.
And of course there's all the stories of like Drake, kind of terrorizing her for years,
Mm,
harassing her and her husband. So I'm glad obviously that she got to do that, and that she didn't just do it because of that, but also because she's from Compton and
yep,
this is like her culture. So, I don't like that people are trying to make it all about Drake, because that performance had so many layers that didn't involve him. But the parts that
mhm,
did, I loved it.
yep. Absolutely, absolutely. You've pretty much hit everything that I wanted to say nail on the head. And also big shout out to DJ Mustard for being included in that performance.
Mustard.
Yes, yes, gotta one time for the one time. Yes. So was great to see. And of course, I was in the living room screaming that as well when he came out. I was
Yes.
like, yes, let's go. Uh, one thing that I didn't want to mention, especially about the Serena part, because there was a lot of people who were like, well, didn't your half sister, get hit by Crips? And I'm like, guys, if you understand Crip culture, you would know. And I'm not a gangbanger. Let me put that out there. I do not bang, but Crips are not unified. Like there are a lot of Crip sets that will actually go against each other. And if I remember
Mhm.
this story correctly, and I might be this might be off of hearsay, but like when they were like when Venus and Serena were kids and they were practicing, that their neighborhood was protected by certain sets. So it's like, come on, guys, this is where she's from. Like this is the
Yeah.
environment that she grew up on. Not every Crip set is going to, be affiliated with the other. It's unfortunately it's the negative stigma that is attached to gang culture. And but
Yeah.
once again, I don't bang. I gotta throw that out there. We
We are
are
not gangbangers on this
we
show.
yes, absolutely. So
We are
I
not.
just wanted to throw that part out there. But anyway, top to bottom, I enjoyed it. Great
Hmm.
little segment. Also, guys, I and this will follow up into a little bit of a question later, for Daphne's interview, but just there's something that I got to get off of my chest. But again, it'll tie into the question. With
Okay.
that, I did want to really just get a quick check on if there was anything new that you've been doing, whether it be new shows, new podcasts that you've been listening to, new video games that you've played, new books that you've read, things of that nature.
Um, so there's a few things. I recently joined a book club. It's invite only. Yes, I'm excited about it. I'm trying to get into different social circles and meet other people, because obviously I have my core friends, but
Mhm.
it's always nice to meet other folks and just be active out here. Which highly recommend if you are single to please be out there, like engaging in other activities and events that do
Mhm.
not center men. Praise the Lord.
Well,
But and all that hear him say amen. All right.
man.
But yeah, so I did, and the book pick for this month was The Mothers by Britt Bennett, and it's a really good book. So I finished it. It's really crazy. Like that book came out the gate swinging, and I was not prepared.
Okay.
But it was really good. I finished it in just a few days. And so our meeting is next week, or this coming week, I should say.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's this new podcast as a result of my book club that I found out about that just dropped an episode this past week. Kat, I think you would like it. I think everybody listening will like it because it is so good. It's called Our Ancestors Were Messy. And it's a historical comedy podcast, and they
Yeah.
are telling all the tea from like way back when. Like the first episode, for example, was like during the Victorian era, and it talks about a love triangle, some people that were part of Maryland's like black elites, and like just some drama and some mess that they had stirred up in some newspapers.
Hmm.
Like it's like wow, like it's stuff that you know hear about on like Blue Sky or X or whatever, but it was back then and it was through newspapers and horses and carriages and stuff, like, and it's actually like really really funny, but it's very informative because everything that they're telling is true. Like they're going to archives and they're doing the research, and yeah, and these people were connected to like some of like our icons in Black history, and they talk about how they were connected to those people. And so I highly recommend. My mom and I listened to it and fell in love with it. Um, it was just good. Which also I wanted to bring this up earlier, but I'm gonna bring it up now.
Okay.
My mom is not like a huge rap person. Like she'll listen to like some old stuff, but she's never really just been a rap person. And Kendrick Lamar had this woman talking about some, they not like us. They not like us. They not like us. I just have to make sure I bring that up. But yeah, so she loved it. I loved it. That podcast is definitely something cool. And then also, I've kind of been watching Watson, which of
Okay.
course this is Morris Chestnut. And he does a great job. I think it's a great show. So I want to plug in my man. That's not my man. I know. His wife is like very, you know, very protective of him, which she should be, honestly.
Mhm.
Honestly, she should be. But happy for them. They're a beautiful couple. So I say that very, very jokingly. But Watson, really good show. Highly recommend watching that because it's in the Sherlock Holmes universe of things. So it's pretty cool. I like it.
Word,
What
word.
about you, kid?
So, as far as like the things that I've been watching, I will say that Paradise with Sterling K. Brown, yeah, that's
Mm.
all I gotta say. That guy is phenomenal, and I'm really just scratching the surface because it's only supposed to be like 8 episodes, and I'm on episode 3, so
Ooh.
I still got some catching up to do. But let me just say that the episodes that I watched, it was like, wow, okay. The twist at the end of episode 1 had me shook, and then knowing what environment that they're in is just like, oh yeah, this about to get real, real messy, real quick. So
Oh.
I'm looking forward to it. It's basically a mystery show for the most part. Uh a I want to say not a classic whodunit, but sort of kind of a whodunit, but it's got multiple layers already thus far. So I am looking forward to seeing what Paradise has in store for these next few seasons. And then that's the one major show. Now this week I do plan on seeing Captain America: Brave New World. You already know.
Ooh, I need to do that.
Yep, that is on my list for. We're recording this as of Sunday, so this is on my list for tomorrow. If not tomorrow, definitely Tuesday because I have
Mhm.
2 days off before I have to go back into the plantation on Wednesday. But still, yeah, that's definitely something that I do plan on watching, and hopefully I will be enjoying it because I don't like listen to critics, especially those who review bomb it because of certain things.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Mhm. Mhm.
so and people who also don't know the stories of Captain America and have never read the comics, like, come on, guys, let's be real. But that's another rant for another day. Uh,
Yeah.
Also, as far as anime, I have been keeping up with uh y'all already know I'm a Dragon Ball head, so Dragon Ball Daima. Obviously, this last episode had me like, wow, okay. Akira Toriyama, you are a madman. He
Oh
was
my
like, before
gosh.
he passed, he was like, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna do one more thing before I get up out of here, and it's gonna be this. And now you're just like, oh, well, okay then. This
He
form is
had to he had to he had to really end it, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, he had to, like it was like, "No, I gotta drop the mic before I leave." So
Absolutely, absolutely. So, rest in peace once again to one of the goats. I
Mhm.
have also been watching Solo Leveling and just peak hands. That's all I have to say is absolute peak hands. If y'all have not watched Solo Leveling this far and you just want to watch something where it's nothing but hands, that's pretty much what it is. And it's actually like a really good show. So definitely Solo Leveling. I forgot the name of it just that quick. There was one show called Ubel Blot that was on
Mm.
um it's on Amazon Prime. Now
Ooh.
I haven't dropped it yet, but
Uh-oh.
it's I just to from my vantage point. I don't I'm channeling my inner mic check waifu here. It feels like there's no the pacing is just terrible. That's
Ooh.
that's really all I wanna say, like, it could really be a good story, and for what I've heard, it is. It's just
Yeah.
right now the pacing of the episodes and the pacing of the action, I'm just like, "Okay, y'all are going, like, way too fast.
Yeah.
Slow down, slow down." Can I get some character development? Can I get some
Mm.
motivation? Like what is going on? It just seems like one thing after one thing after one thing happens and it's all like blended together. And I really cannot stand when that happens. So I'm just kind of like, I'm gonna keep going, but I'll report back if it gets any better or if it just gets any worse. And yeah, I'll leave it
Is
at
it so? One thing I definitely need to watch Solo Leveling.
Mhm,
Everybody, I've this is now the fourth or fifth time that someone was like, "So 11, so 11," like in the past like couple of days.
mhm,
So I need to watch that. I haven't been watching a lot of anime. I've been like reading mangas, but
mhm.
I'm gonna have to now. I'm gonna have to tune in because everybody keeps bringing it up. So I'm gonna do that. Um, Second, I have a question
Okay.
about this show that you said has like the terrible pacing. Like, are we talking on a level from zero to Yasuke? Like, how bad is it? Because you know what I'm talking about, Yasuke,
Oh,
the
yeah.
show that was on Netflix. Yeah,
Mm.
that had a much better soundtrack than show. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Not quite the level of Yasuke, but it's like it ain't that far off either. It's
What?
yeah, it's what really pissed me off about Yasuke was just that yes, not only was the pacing terrible, but it also feels like Yasuke, the guy who was supposed to be the central character, is not the central character. And so that
Yeah.
really, really bothered me. And then there were other elements that just kind of like came out of nowhere that didn't make sense. And
And
he
it was never
it
explained.
never
It
explained.
was never like, okay, yes, we're in the feudal era and we're
Mhm.
riding on horses and we're fighting with swords. And then out of nowhere, some mechanical guys show up with like robots and mecha and all this other stuff.
Yes,
How the hell did we get here?
right.
I'm just like, we just went from we went from the past to basically like the future, and there was no in between, no
None.
explanation as to how we got here. How did this happen? Why did this happen?
Yeah. It
Like, it just made no sense at all. And I tried to watch all of it so I could see like maybe they tie it up and they explain it, but they never did.
nope. And no, this just feels like for Ubal Blot, it's just pushing the plot along just to like get it out. It's not, yeah,
Mm,
adding extra elements into it that have nothing to do with the storyline. Like they're not pulling out
yeah.
a mech out of nowhere or this has magical properties and it's not explained. No, this is just more so along like here's a hero, he's looking for revenge. You might get a little clip of why he's, seeking revenge, but that's all we're gonna give you. We're not like and then on top of that, he has to do this, 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 and this. Oh, he says the moon is bright tonight. Well, what does the moon have to do with him specifically? It's never
Yeah.
explained. Okay, well, somehow he gets powered up by the moon, but we haven't gotten into detail about that. Okay, the
Mm,
little girl gets kidnapped. Oh, okay, well, now he's trying to do that. Oh, wait, now we've got to deal with these soldiers over here. It's just kind of like it feels all over the place. And I'm
yeah.
kind of like, all right, yo, y'all got to slow down. The spacing is terrible. So
Yeah.
I'll report back on to that. Speaking of Amazon Prime shows, though, Invincible, really, really, really good. Really, really, really.
I haven't seen the new season yet. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it.
No,
Don't spoil
no
it.
spoilers. It's
I
really good.
haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it yet.
Yep,
I need to watch it. I
I will
need to
leave
watch
that to
it.
you. Yes.
Mhm.
And then of course there's other anime shows that I'm watching, like Sakamoto Days is really entertaining, really funny for the show that it is. I
Mhm.
definitely love watching that. My Happy Marriage. I haven't seen people talk about it, but honestly, I'm enjoying the
I
season. So
My Happy Marriage.
yes.
I loved it. There's been talks about a new season coming out for that show.
Hmm.
Actually,
Well,
I
good.
because I did some digging. Because I was just curious.
Mhm.
Based on like how it ended a little bit. Cause I'm like, it seems final, but is it really final? Like, it's not like, a super final, like they could do more. And then of course, like, from my understanding, which I haven't read it, so I could be wrong. So don't quote me on this, but from my understanding, the manga went further. So that's why I was
Mm.
like, okay, maybe, they'll come out with more episodes. And then I saw that it was announced that there was going to be a new season. I can't remember when I saw that that was coming out, but I did see that there is. But that one was one that I think they did a good job, like tying in the magical elements, because it's like you
Mhm.
didn't expect that at first.
Nope.
And then it's like, oh, okay. Oh, but y'all explain it. Oh, all of this makes sense. Okay,
Yep.
now I get it. Like everything was explained.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yep. Yep. That's what I really love about My Happy Marriage and what I really can't stand about this other show, but that's neither here nor there. The final show
Yeah.
that I want to really just talk about real quick is another anime. It's I May Be a Girl Receptionist, but I'll solo any boss to clock out on time. Yes, it has an obnoxious title, and no, it's actually not an isekai. It is a
'Cause
fantasy.
that's what I was about to say.
Yes, it's a fantasy show, but it's not an isekai. But
Okay.
yeah, this it's really good. The main character, Alina, she's kind of a head case, and that's putting it mildly, because this girl pretty much, she loves well, to get into a background without spoiling it too much, she wanted to be an adventurer, something traumatized her, so instead she was like she's comfortable just being a guild receptionist and living a normal life.
Yeah.
Somehow or another, she ends up getting an ancient power that's above all the other powers that all the adventurers have, and she doesn't
Mhm.
want to use it. She just wants to be a guild receptionist, but she wants to clock out on time. So when people take too long at her guild to complete a mission, she's like, "Eff it, I'm gonna go do this myself. Take care of the boss." So that way she doesn't have to worry about staying overtime filling out paperwork. That's the gist.
That's so funny.
Yes, it's very great show,
Like, I
very
don't wanna
very
do more work, so Imma just go take care of this shit that y'all can't seem to do yourselves. I actually
exactly.
stand. I low-key stand that. I can stand that.
Yes, Alina is. I stand Alina for that behavior. So I'm like, yo, she's a real one. Yet,
Yeah,
I
no, no
mean,
kidding.
she's got her quirks about her that I'm just kind of like, okay, you can come off as like kind of annoying, but at the same time,
Yeah.
I get it because you didn't ask for any of this. You just wanted to clock out on time, and now all of a sudden you've been blessed with just godlike power. So now it's like, oh, okay, but yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. If you haven't watched it, definitely watch. And that's all that I have, at least for right now. So we've covered, some good shows. We've covered the Super Bowl halftime show, excuse me. Let's get into these questions with Dav. It feels like, we've been sitting here for 52 minutes, and just for the record, guys, me and Dav can yap for hours. So
No, we are some yappers. So, guys, like, this is gonna be a yapping episode. I'm actually
yeah.
trying to mentally be like, let's not go on too long, Daph. Like,
Mhm. Absolutely. Like we will literally like call each other on the phone, and we'll start with one conversation, and the next thing you know, we'll be on the phone for hours. So I
yeah.
just want y'all to be aware of that. But anyway, we have her here for a purpose. We're here to highlight our Black professionals here, and we want
Hmm.
to make sure that once again that everyone who watches this knows that there are many career paths you can take, and in any career path that you choose, obviously, of course, will make a difference. So, shout out to everyone who's doing something out here, bettering their communities and just helping other people in general, but also, doing things for yourself as well. That's also important. And once again, happy Black History Month.
Amen to
Yes, ma'am.
that.
So, Daph, I did want to start with the first question. Like, what actually inspired you to choose this career path?
Ooh, so my mom has a little sister, and she's an attorney. So I
Mm,
always wanted to be like my aunt. And I don't know, she just growing up, she was just like my idea of like the woman I wanted to be when I was a little girl.
mhm,
She's always been a beautiful woman, but I mean, she always had like really long hair. She kept it pressed, laid to the gods. She was always dressed real sharp.
hey,
She took me to work with her a few times when she was working as an attorney for the city of Dallas. And I don't know. I just loved like I just really loved watching her as a kid. And I told my mom, told my dad, I wanted to be just like her. And then she also married another attorney. And so both of them, just kind of planted that seed of, being a good attorney and really making something of yourself in the legal career.
mm,
And so or in the legal field rather. And so Yeah, I pretty much knew since I was like 4 or 5 that this is what I wanted to do. And so I ended up going to school with that in mind. I did kind of veer off a little bit and I majored in music for a little while. But then I ended up right back on the path that I was supposed to be on. And then I went to law school at the same law school that they went to, here in Houston. Shout out to Thurgood Marshall School of Law, HBCU Law School. Okay. So um, of course, I went to a PWI for undergrad. I went to University of North Texas. I still love my mean green, but being at Thurgood was just like a really phenomenal experience for me. Um, and it really helped me realize, the type of path I wanted to be on. Just like I didn't I thought for a long time that I wanted to go like the traditional route of being a lawyer, and working in like big law, having some office on like the 32nd floor and all of that. And at first I kind of was thinking on that path, but I realized I didn't want to be miserable when I worked. So I wanted to do something that I was actually passionate about. And then also tie that into like my passion for the law. So while I was at Thurgood, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go into like the video game and IP space, like, doing like trademarks, copyrights, contract work, all of the things, data privacy, all of that for anime studios, for video game companies, for manga studios, basically for content creators, for like the nerdy people, for like the nerdy culture side of things. And I had um, a professor slash one of the deans of the law school who saw that and thought that that was really cool. And mind you, she's a lot older, and
Mhm.
she didn't necessarily grow up with like the technology that we have now, and that the tech and the technology that that I've been exposed to, or that we've been exposed to. And a lot of times people in that particular age group, and this is obviously no shade, but they tend to, want to be on the more, go the more traditional law route, do criminal law, do personal injury, do
Mhm.
family law, do, like they try to veer everyone towards that because it's like that's, those are the practice areas where you're going to get money, and those practice areas are not going anywhere. They've been here for hundreds of years. They're going to still be here for hundreds of years.
Yep.
So, like you go that way. But she actually saw what I was interested in and she said, do it, write about it, go to events, meet this person, do this thing. And I really appreciate Dean Mouton for doing that. And so yeah, I decided to write my papers, to do all the research on it. And after law school, I did do the traditional law route a little bit because it was harder, to, for me at least at that time, to come up the gate with a job doing trademark or copyright law or
Mhm.
something video game, manga, anime related. Because not too many jobs like that existed, or it was just really difficult to find, an associate position for like a first time associate, that they would have to train and do all these other things with, for that particular type of law. So I ended up doing family law for a few years until I was just like, I can't do this because this is not what I wanted to do.
Right.
I do not love it. I was miserable. Yes, the money was good, but I was just like, I have to make a decision. And it was a tough decision, honestly,
Mhm.
because and I think this happens to a lot of people. You get comfortable because it's like, I know I'm getting this particular money, or particular amount of money, and I'm gonna be safe. I'm gonna be secure. Sometimes we just take the safe route. And so I was going back and forth between faith or safe, faith or safe. Am I gonna, have faith in myself and in what I really want to do, to like go on the path I want, or am I gonna keep playing it safe and, know that I'm gonna get this sure money, but I'm gonna be miserable every day. It was a really hard decision for me to make. But ultimately I did decide to step out on faith and do what I wanted to do, what I've been saying I want to do. And it was not super easy initially, but I kept at it because I was like, I'm struggling, but I love this. Like,
Mhm.
like I'm having to learn a lot. I'm having to build a practice, and building a practice on something that, you don't have a lot of experience in is not super easy. I got mentors. I met with a lot of folks. Like, I was working all the time because I was like, I gotta make this shit shake. I gotta make this thing happen. And it's paid off so well for me. Like, I now work at Hold On Law Partners, which is a phenomenal law firm. They align with my values, and how I feel work should be. And they fully support, the type of clients that I want to bring in, the type of work that I want to do. And they've helped me really hone in on that, and create this like really unique brand around it. So, shout out to Hold On, love them. They're great. They support me. So, yeah, that's how I ended up here. And so I get to represent some really cool clients, some fun clients, and do something that I actually factually care about. So that's the most important thing.
And as you said, you know, sometimes all money ain't good money. So
Hmm.
you found your path, and I think that is the most important part. And you actually answered part of the next question because I
Oh,
wanted to
oops.
know, like, hey, listen, that's what I said. Like, yo, sometimes when we gap, it's just like, hey, well, that checks off one box, and
Yeah, no, not
you
kidding.
part of the question, what was like the hardest part in your journey choosing that portion of law. But since that was answered, it's like, okay, are there any challenges that you are facing currently that you consider like at the top of your list, of hurdles to get over? That's the next part.
you know, um, it's not. I I don't really know because, see, to add on to the challenge as well, like, that was the hard part,
Mm,
was um shifting gears, changing, going into something that was more unknown to me. Leaving behind, this much more comfortable life, and getting into something where it's like I'm having to build something from the ground up.
mhm.
Like, I'm not going somewhere that's built and, quote unquote, making it better. I'm making something that's completely mine. So that was the hard part. um the I guess the current challenge is, just, uh, honestly, I have very few challenges in comparison, but I guess if I had to pick one, it would be, just balancing things. I've kind of gotten to this point where I'm like, I don't have to work all the time, or I don't have to make everything about work. So,
Right.
just knowing when to turn that off, because sometimes I get into like my entrepreneur bag a little too much, and it's just
Mhm.
like, it's okay to not make this particular thing about work. You can actually just do this because you just want to, and if it happens to align with work, then it does. If it doesn't, great, you still had a good time, you still got to, kind of balance and take a break. So that's really just been the the shift that I've made. Like, it went from, okay, I'm having to do to build, to like, okay, I've done a lot of the foundational things. How can I continue to build upon that while also being mindful of my own personal needs and taking care of myself? So that's kind of like, I guess those things go hand in hand. Um,
Yeah, it's all about finding that balance, whether it be work-life balance or just balance in general. You have to learn
yeah,
when to dial it back and to
yeah.
take time for yourself.
Hmm.
Go backwards just a little bit. You had mentioned, and I don't think you've told this to me before, but you had mentioned that you deviated from the path a little bit, and you were actually majoring in music. Was it
I
like,
never thought about that.
yeah? Was it music performance, music education, music history? If you wanted to expound upon that just a tiny bit.
Vocal performance and music education.
Mm, okay.
I was, a very talented and awarded singer, throughout my middle
Definitely.
school.
Yes.
Yeah, throughout my middle school and high school career. And so I loved it so much that I wanted to keep the ball going, essentially, because I was just like, this thing made me happy. It was,
Mhm.
the highlight of most of my childhood. So, even in elementary school, I was competing and stuff. So, I wanted to keep that going. What I found out in college was that I didn't want it as a career.
Mm,
It can be a part of my career, and I still obviously go back into that bag for the work that I do now.
yep.
But I was like, I'd rather this be more of like a thing that I keep, as a big part of my life that, you know, that's just something that's fun for me,
Mm,
where I can take my flute lessons since I play the flute, and then, I can do voice lessons if I want to, or sing in some event, or do whatever. Like, I can still do those things without it being like my career.
mhm.
So that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where it's like, just kind of knowing the difference between like, okay, is this something I want to do, or am I making this about work? Like, I don't have to make everything like something that's commercial, something that's profitable, or just work. I can just have a hobby, or I can just have things that I love to do that, maybe doesn't bring me any monetary benefits or something. I don't know. But
Hey, no, I get what you're saying wholeheartedly, wholeheartedly. So, I just wanted to ask about that because I was like, well, I know, well, at least you've told me I haven't yet to hear you sing, and one day I will hopefully get to hear that.
I
One
don't even
one day, guys, one day.
what's so crazy is I like 15-year-old me, if somebody said, "Hey, sing for me," I would do it on the spot, like no
Mhm.
problem. 33-year-old me is a little bit more shy about it. I don't know why. I don't know when that happened. Maybe
Yeah.
it's because I don't perform like I used to. So maybe there's just a little bit of anxiety about, ooh, do I still got it? Like, I mean, of course I still sing and stuff, and like my family, they're just like, no, you still got it. But like I don't I don't do it all the time like that. Well, I mean, I do in my room, but I don't do it like out there in the world. So it's
Right.
like, people may not know. But yeah, I mean, I actually like factually got into UNT College of Music, which is like not easy to do. It's one of the top music programs.
God damn it.
Um,
God, see, but
yeah,
okay,
that's the crazy part. Like it's one of the top music programs. It's hard to get into, which I didn't realize how hard it was to get into as a freshman until other freshmen when I was a freshman in college were like, yeah, like I think they were like alternate or something. Like they were technically undeclared
mm,
music major, because they hadn't gotten accepted into the College of Music. And then I was just like, oh well, I did. And they were just like, wait, you did? Like you got in? And it's just like, yeah, like it's hard. Like, how Elle was is like, yeah, like it's hard. Like that's how my
mhm.
mind was at the time. Cause I thought that they were just like, whatever. They letting folks in. Like, I'm not saying everybody would get in, but I'm thinking more than what got in. But apparently it wasn't as much as I thought. So that was one of those really good reassuring moments for me, because I didn't take it for granted. Like I was happy about it. I was like, oh, I know I'm gonna get in, because I knew my audition was gonna be great. But I guess I still took for granted, like, oh shit, I got into one of the top music programs, and it's actually not that easy to get into it. And I should be proud of myself and grateful for that. But um yeah, I ended up not sticking with it because again I wanted to focus on the loft stuff. So um yeah.
Hey, look, things happen, and this is coming from someone who, initially and still does wanna be an actor, but I was like, "Do I really wanna make that, like, part of my career? Do I really want to go into theater as a degree program?" So
Mm,
I chose the business side because I was like, okay, well, eventually maybe I can start to learn like the business of acting and I can get into, that portion that way. But
mhm.
of course the acting bug kicked in, but at that point I was already more than halfway through my degree program. So it's like make it a minor. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of how that happened for me. And now it seems like the acting bug has bit me again because for a while I was like, do I really still got it? Do I really, can I really just put on a performance just like that? Because
yeah,
we were having the same kind of feelings. And then one day I just like read a script and performed it. I was like, no, I still got it. I just
yeah,
need to dust off the cobwebs a little bit, but I still got it. And even taking classes on it really have helped me kind of scale, okay, what's good for the theater, but what's good for film as far as auditioning. So
Mm.
now that I know that balance, it's like, okay, now it's time to learn the business part. And then eventually I will be, stepping out on faith just as you did. But we'll get into more of that. But
I love that.
yeah, I definitely just wanted to share that part with you because granted, I wasn't shy about performing, or rather, I was shy when I was a kid. Like, I used to always hate when my mom would put me in front of family as far as like trying to do speeches or
Oh my gosh.
like whether it be like the Easter speeches or even if it was just a poem or something.
Yeah.
It always freaked me out because I didn't want to do it in front of my family. But when I got in front of an
Mm.
audience full of strangers, it was like, whoa, who is this guy? It
Mhm.
was a completely different person. It wasn't until I was about 16 that I was finally comfortable to be like, hey, because my mom was like, hey, you're about to perform this poem at this like competition, your grandma and your granddad want to see it.
I love how she just told you that is a
Yeah,
mama for you. That
and,
is a
and
black mama for
yes,
you.
indeed. And at that point, I was like, okay, fine. And then I did it, and it was just like, oh, I'm not nervous in front of my family anymore. But why was I so nervous, like as a kid doing this? I guess maybe because I
Mm.
didn't want to be embarrassed. I'm not sure, but
Hmm.
either way, yeah. It took me a while to get comfortable with performing, and then afterwards, it was just kind of like clockwork. Anytime someone asked me to do a scene or anything, I always had like that one scene in my head, like, oh, I can do this real quick. Hang on, but now it's just I have to start reading a little more script so that way I can, bust out a performance when need be. But still, I
Yeah.
definitely get where you're coming from when it comes to like the music, and you didn't necessarily want to make that as part of your career. You came from
Yeah.
organization, and I think that's good that you did that early and
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be
It's
comfortable.
just it was one of those things. And you know what helped me actually figure that out, ironically enough? We had this requirement that you had to do like lessons. Like, so if someone, even the people that did like, flute performance or, music education, and they were doing it for like an instrument, no matter what aspect of the College of Music you were a part of, everyone had to do like one-on-one lessons as part of the curriculum. And
Mm,
my voice teacher, actually, he was a guy. Um I think he had gotten like his bachelor's and master's in music, if I remember correctly.
okay.
And I remember I went to the lesson one day, and he was just like, yeah, I think either that week was going to be his last week, or he was going to be leaving like fairly soon.
Mhm.
And I was just like, well, me, I'm a pro, I'm making it conversational. And I'm just like, well, are you going to like another school, or like, what are you going to do? And he told me he was going to law school. I was like, how did we get here?
Wow.
um, but he said that because he was just like, I don't make enough money doing this. Like, I love it, but I don't make enough doing this. And it's like, now I have a wife and she wants to have kids. Like, we want to have a family. So it's like he's thinking at this point, like, I need to change my career.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I just thought that that was pretty interesting that I had that moment with him, because I had kind of been feeling like this doesn't feel right, because if you're a music major, and shout out to the music majors out there, when you're a music major, like that major will literally take over your life.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
I mean, because you have like 8 a.m. Well, most schools do, where they have like 8 a.m. classes for like
mhm.
theory or something. And then, like, you have your private lessons, you have like whatever group you're a part of. So if you're like in choir or like some sort of band, like you have that. um there's organizations and stuff that you're a part of, but even organization stuff aside, like your whole week is literally music. Like, it's just the music courses, the music requirements that they have you do, especially at UNT. So you were really just, your whole life was that. And I also didn't like that, because I'm just like, I liked it when it was a part of my life. I don't want it to be my life. So yeah, that was a interesting conversation that furthered my decision to do what I'm doing now.
Hey, I hear that. And yeah, big shout out to the music majors who stuck with it. Listen,
Amen.
at the university. or the horror stories I heard about folk taking theory, I'm just like, you know what? I'm glad I didn't choose music as my
That was
because that was a choice for me as well.
that was the hardest crap because I thought I knew theory. Like I come it's like I come from a lawyer family as well because I got my aunt and uncle, but I come from a musical family. My dad was a
Mm,
music major back in the day. My
mm,
dad was a trombonist and he sings. My mom is a singer as well. And I like a lot of people in my family are musicians or singers. So I grew up with theory all around me. And so I was really I used to do great in theory like in middle school, high school, private lessons that I had throughout grade school. I just knew I was going to be fine. And like the first couple of classes, I felt confident about this. Then we got to some of that other stuff and I
mm.
was like, am
Yeah,
I in calculus or theory? Like, what is going on? Like, stop the count. Stop the count. How did I end up in what's that class that everybody hates? OChem. How did I end up
mhm.
in OChem? Like, cause this is music. This is supposed
Yeah.
to be a little bit like I know it's gonna be a wee too challenging, but it should be a little bit more fun than challenging. And right now this doesn't feel fun. This feels like torture. I don't like that.
Look, listen. Cause some of them folk that because I was in the marching band for those who don't know, obviously. But yeah, I would every time we get out of practice or even before then, like before we have to head to practice, like some of my boys would come over and be like, bro, I just got out of theory. And I'm just like, dog, you all right? And they'd be like, nah, bro, like nah, this shit is terrible. I'm like, hey, more power to you. Meanwhile, I'm struggling over here with accounting. Like I'm sitting here like
Oh God.
and I've that's when I realized like, yo, I will never be an accountant. I'm sorry.
Mm-mm,
It's not that
mm-mm.
it's not easy or doable. It's just so cumbersome and tedious. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, yo,
I feel
I
like they're hand in hand, actually. I feel like
there.
music theory and accounting are hand in hand because
Mhm.
I tried with accounting as well. Nah,
Yeah.
it was not it was not a thing. So
Mhm.
respect to the music theory professors and the accountants out there in the world. Like
It-
shout out to y'all.
yes, there's a reason why I didn't graduate with my class with my degree program, and I ended up falling back a semester is because I had to take every accounting course that I took twice, and I took
Mm,
3 accounting courses. So
wow.
I had to take each of those 3 accounting courses twice at some point or another because I could not get better than a C minus the first go round. So there's that. There's one that I made it out with a C plus, and I'm like, great, I never had to take it again. But that was more of it was financial reporting too, which is more like an auditing class. So I was like, all right, I'm comfortable with that. And then the next accounting class that I had from that point was in grad school. I had no choice but to get a B out of that joint. So it was just like, all right, yeah, because if I get a C, I'm out of here. So
Yeah, literally.
yeah. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get back into the questions here. Just one question that I had was in regards to your career specifically, what are some misconceptions that you've run across?
Mm. Where do I begin? No. That okay, here's one that Google is equivalent to my law degree. It's not.
Goodness. You
It's
got
not.
wow.
AI not equivalent to my law degree. It's
Mhm,
not. So, you know, you can look up a form like let's just say, someone's just like, "Well, I need a non-disclosure agreement." Okay, I can draft that up for you, no problem.
mhm,
Don't then turn around and say, "Oh, well, I found this thing on Google," because it may not fit your needs. It may be incorrect. I've seen people like I've seen people send me, I'm not gonna say who it was. I've seen people send me certain, types of contracts that they need. And I love drafting contracts. For the record, I love it.
mhm,
But I've had people send me certain documents. They're like, yeah, so I found this online, or I use Chat GPT or whatever that they use to create this thing. And I'm looking at it and I'm just like, this is so like not what you need. This is so wrong. There might be things about it that are right, but there's a lot more that's wrong. And it's like it takes a lawyer to know that though. Because I tell people, I'm like, I didn't go through 3 years of law school and a few months, 4 to 5 months of studying for the bar exam for 15 plus hours a day, just for you to think that all it takes is going on Google to find a little form. No. So that's definitely one thing. I will say I see a lot of that. And I also understand, people are just like, well, it's cost effective. At least they believe it is. It seems like it is because, well, you know, you're going to charge me this amount and this thing is only charging me like $75. You should question why it's only $75. You
Yeah.
should question why, some entity is claiming to do trademarks for only $200. Why would that be the case? And what ends up happening is they use some of these platforms like LegalZoom or some of these other platforms, to draft a document or do a trademark, and then they have to end up coming to me afterwards to fix it because something went completely amiss. That was super preventable, mind you. And contracts is one of those things where you don't want to play with that. Like, the way that courts interpret contracts is they look at the document itself, and everything needs to be, concise, specific, clarified, all of those words. So, if you're thinking it means one thing and it doesn't mean that thing because it says the total opposite of that, well, then you're going to be in trouble.
Mhm.
So it's always good to actually talk to an attorney, a licensed attorney, not
Right.
not some content creator on TikTok or YouTube that they did a few cases on their own and lucked out somehow, and now they think that there's some sort of authority on the law. They're not. And they can be in trouble for unauthorized practice of law. And
Mhm.
actually talk to an actual licensed attorney that can tell you, hey, that clause shouldn't be there. It's going to, ruin whatever you're hoping to achieve here. Or, oh, you know what, the law says that those types of clauses aren't allowed anymore. They're ineffective. So now we got to remove that. Whatever the case may be, talk to an attorney that cares about you and your case and is not just after your money. And especially don't get advice from a non-lawyer. Because one thing about it, and I heard this from some other sources, I don't know how entirely true this is, but um some of those fast, cheap trademark uh online websites or entities,
Mhm.
there have been accusations, and in some cases there's been proof of this, where there have been like teenagers filing these things for people, not even real attorneys. So you have to be careful with what you're doing and who you're doing it with. And I'm not just saying this just to talk out my ass here. i'm
Right.
i'm saying this because I've, like, over the past couple of years, I've had more people come to me to fix something that one of those online entities did. LegalZoom being one of them. LegalZoom being, I've had to fix a few clients that went to LegalZoom first. And they ended up having to spend more money fixing something that if they had just came to me in the front half or in the first place, they wouldn't have spent that much money. So it's more costly to you. It's more it's more of a disadvantage to you, to not have legitimate counsel on the front end of transactions. I've seen people lose thousands of dollars. I've seen people, not have proper contracts and they lose upwards to $100,000 or more. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things that I tell people, like, for very, very simple things, I'll even point you in the right direction. If it's a very simple thing and you're just like, hey, I want to save some money and do it myself, go for it. But if it's not a very simple thing and you don't know a lick of law about nothing, talk to an attorney. That's it.
Hey. Thank you for the advice because I also have some friends who have some horror stories about LegalZoom and Legal Shield. I don't want to get too much into that, but yeah, guys, talk to a licensed attorney, please.
Yeah.
Please, that's I'm gonna leave it at that. She's already said enough about that. Like she has thoroughly made her point. Granted, I already know this stuff as far as to who can I talk to when it comes to trademarks and when like I'm not going through Google or YouTube or getting my advice from some content creator when I can literally just call Daphne and ask her a question if I
Yeah.
need to. So there's that, guys. So please be sure that you talk to attorney. Uh one question that I definitely wanted to ask, and this could be in conjunction with the question we just came off of. So,
Mhm.
as someone who looks to trademark their brand or name, like just name a couple of recommended tips that you have for our audience. You don't have to get into like the deep nitty gritty,
Yeah.
obviously, but just some things that you want people to be aware of before they go through this process.
Yeah. If you are just planning things out, because there's going to be a difference here between people that are in the planning stages of things
Mhm,
versus people that are already using their mark. If you're in the planning stages of things, be a little protective of, whatever names you come up with. I would say it's probably a good idea to not put all your eggs in one basket.
mhm,
Have multiple names that, you feel aligned to or that feel aligned to like your brand and the way you want it portrayed in the marketplace, because that's what trademarks is about. A trademark by definition is a source or good that's used in commerce. It's about the origin of the source or good that's used in commerce. That's the definition. The source of a good or service used in commerce, right? So when people see this name or this logo, this slogan, in some cases color or hear a certain sound, they know, oh, that's XYZ brand. And I know who owns that particular brand. So that way, when there are knockoffs out there,
mhm.
people will know, wait, this is a knockoff. Prime example that I love to give people: McDonald's versus McDowell's from Coming to America.
Yes, indeed.
Like, and that's a very egregious trademark example, right? But it's like, that was why the McDonald's people, he said they always trying to come around here. It's because it's a trademark infringement, right? And he knows that he's doing it. That's why he's chasing away the reporters and stuff. So definitely, if it's a very obvious trademark brand like McDonald's, don't infringe on it. But if you have your own brand name or if you have a list of names that you think are unique, definitely try to see if you can do like a quick Google search to see if something like super obvious pops out. Do not think that the Google search is the end all be all though.
Mhm.
Attorneys, trademark attorneys, we still do a very thorough search that uses a specific type of platform that's only accessible to attorneys, where we do a more thorough legal analysis and search. So it's completely different than Google. It's gonna go deeper than Google. So do not think that, oh, I Googled it, so I'm gonna be fine. There's gonna be somebody in Montana that's using that name and you don't know it until we do a search. So
Mm.
you got to be careful. For people that are already using their mark, definitely tip I would give there is to look for a trademark attorney. Make sure you go over, how you can protect your mark. What are some things that you need to protect, and get that done as soon as you can, since you're already using your mark, you're exposing it for someone that can potentially come in and try to trademark it before you. Prime example of that, Black Girl Magic.
Mm.
Black Girl Magic should have been trademarked by the original owner, but it took off on Twitter. And someone saw obviously how popular it was, and they filed the trademark before they did. Um, so it's like, if you're using your mark, this is not to scare you into like getting a trademark, but it's definitely something that you should prioritize because it's a very important part of being a business owner. um,
Yes.
Unless you have a very common name. If you know that you have a very unique name, unique slogan, something that's unique about you, definitely look into getting that done.
Absolutely. And she's talking directly to me, guys. So I just want you to know.
He
But
was like, "Damn, I'm feeling all those daggers right here."
nah, but she knows that I know this, and I was ready to do it, and then I had a discussion for after the pod, but yeah,
Mhm, mhm.
something came up, so it's just like, all right, no, I still gotta get this going, and I still want to be sure that we can become trademark because that has been my goal
Yeah,
since 2023. But life happens to the best of us, so
yeah.
there's that. Uh, Now I do want to throw this one out there. This is from a personal standpoint. So,
Mm,
and maybe somebody else could use this for the future as well. Uh,
mhm.
do you think people should file, especially if they're business owners, do you think people should file the LLC first before the trademark or trademark before LLC? Or does the order really matter?
I personally tell clients to get the LLC first, and um, honestly, the order doesn't completely matter. It's not like one of those things where it's like, no, you have to get this done first. It's not like a hard requirement, but I think that it's one that I would say is a pretty good advice from a business standpoint, because what I do on my side of things when I file the application is, I have the LLC as the owner of the trademark, so that way you put the LLC name, the LLC's address, and that sort of thing, and not necessarily your own information.
Mhm.
Especially if you have like this company and this entity, I personally think it would be better to have the business as the owner of the trademark, because again, a trademark is an asset, it's considered an asset. So that does increase the value of the business. So I think that it's more advisable to do that. It's not a requirement. But I also have clients that are individuals, and they'll just be the owner of the trademark, instead of getting an LLC. Like, I have a content creator client right now. He's pretty big on TikTok and everything,
Mhm.
and he just has himself as the owner. He didn't set up an LLC to own it, which makes sense because it's really just him. But if you have a business where it's like you and maybe some other people, or even if you're looking to bring on other people, I would say it might be a good idea to just have the LLC as an owner, increase the value of your business in the process. So
Okay, great advice.
yeah.
Great advice. I will definitely take that into consideration. And for anybody else that's listening, obviously, this is for your info as well.
Yeah.
So, next question. With the current climate that we are in,
Hmm.
do you think more Black content creators should invest more in their trademarks or just in themselves in general, instead of? And I'm not going to deter anybody from being in the corporate world or being a Black professional or anything. But do you think that it's more important for us now to be like investing more on ourselves and then perhaps investing in trademarks, especially if they are Black content creators?
I think it's a great idea.
Mm,
I think it's becoming increasingly important to own things now. And, you know, true ownership comes with a trademark. I know that people overemphasize the role of LLCs. It's a limited liability company. That means you're limiting the liability, that someone could potentially bring to you, right? So it's like they're going to sue the business and not necessarily you directly, right? If something goes wrong with the business. And that has a lot of benefits, right? There's also tax benefits and stuff like that. But trademarking something is giving you true ownership. Like, nobody can use your trademark brand for anything without paying you,
mhm.
without your permission, like via a license, stuff like that. So it's even with copyrights, nobody can use your copyrighted creation, whether it's a photograph, art, music, a movie, whatever it is. Nobody can use those things without a license. So you get paid for those things, right?
All right.
So there's a lot of value in having that. And that gives you true ownership over your brand, and you're able to leverage more from a business perspective and standpoint. And I think that that's very important given the current climate. I try not to give any of those people more energy than they already get.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously I keep up with the news. This is not me saying I don't keep up with what's going on. You can't help but keep up with what's going on, but I try not to give them too much of my energy. I care about the communities that I service more, and just like the people that are in my life. And for the communities that I service, I overemphasize the need of really pouring into your business. And pouring into your business means getting the proper protections. And I think that is even more crucial now, in a climate where people are trying to do away with the law and order that
Mm-hmm.
we've established and that this country has established for hundreds of years. So I would say it's probably more important now than it ever was, to have that.
Agreed. As a follow up, we've noticed that certain people have there's this pattern of anti-intellectualism that's been going on.
Mm,
We already know, it's been kind of plaguing the school systems and whatnot, and we can that there's a deep dive about the Department of Education that I really don't want to get into at this point. But I say all of that to say, like, have you noticed or has there been any like anti-intellectualism with content creators that you have dealt with? And if so, how do you usually steer away from things of that nature?
hmm. What do you mean? Well, here's my question to that. What do you mean by anti-intellectualism of
So
content creators? Yeah.
So let's just say that like a content creator will go out and they think that they know certain about a certain subject when they really have no idea. Like for example, when we talk about talking to a licensed attorney, when it
Mm.
comes to these things, have you noticed like any content creator just giving bad advice, whether it be like legal advice, and how have you like kind of steered people away from that if you have, or how have you kept yourself away from riffraff like that?
Um, yeah, I there's a lot of misinformation that I've seen when it comes to legal stuff. It ranges from every practice area and every type of law, to be honest. And I try to do my part on social media to negate some of those egregious things that I'm seeing. I there was one in particular that I saw that was a trend, and I did speak on this on TikTok. I took those videos down now, but
Mhm.
there was a time where I was making video content about the uh I think it was like I forgot what they called it now, but it was like this Hogwarts like HBCU edition, and
Oh,
they were utilizing the IP that's owned by, I believe it's owned by Warner
Warner
Brothers,
Brothers.
and obviously there's some that's owned by that lady. I don't like to say her name. I don't like to give
Mhm.
her any energy as well. But um, you know, I made it a point to say, because there was a video that was circulating, and someone was just like, well, you can use their trademarks, they're not gonna like do anything. And her rationale was just wrong. I mean, she was trying to make it seem like it was fair use or something,
Mm,
but she wasn't quite using they weren't quite using that jargon. And I had to essentially say, well, no, this isn't the same thing, because what you're doing now goes outside of that. You're making merchandise, you're using like the exact emblems, the exact symbols, and some of the other elements that are owned by
mhm,
someone else. Typically, a component of fair use is it kind of ties back into the First Amendment. Not even kind of, it ties back into the First Amendment where it's like, okay, it's a part of creative expression. And if this had just been like a skit, which I think at one point that's all it was just someone
mm,
made like a Hogwarts like HBCU edition as a
mhm,
skit, that's parody, right? And parody is protected speech. You can use someone's marks for the purpose of, some form of protected creative expression. What you can't use it for is making your own merchandise, selling it using someone else's protective marks or someone else's protective, protected things. So
Mhm.
that was where the lines got blurred and things got murky because, people were like, well, this should be okay. And it's like, well, no. And
Oh,
then the other part of that argument is, well, they stole stuff from us, meaning like black people. And I'm like,
mhm.
that is definitely, we can definitely agree to that. But what I'm trying to tell you as an attorney who does this is I don't want them to come after you because that particular author is extremely litigious.
Yes.
Loves to sue anybody, and she would especially love to sue a minority over something.
Mm,
And then obviously you have this big conglomerate. You have Warner Brothers who's involved. Um and they can be protective as well. So um that was where you had the issue where people were taking like the legitimate names that are protected and putting like a little bit of a twist and then selling it, but they're using a lot of the same stuff that's unique to the Harry Potter series, and that's
right.
obviously problematic. So I've seen a lot of stuff like that, just people giving like just completely erroneous legal advice.
Mm.
Just to get clicks and views. And then when a lawyer comes in and says, well, no, people get upset because I guess it's not fun anymore. I don't know. I don't know. It's all vibes, right? Like no
Very much
thoughts,
so.
no thoughts, no critical thinking at all, just vibes. I don't know, but
I have a whole rant about vibes. I gotta, yeah, guys. When it comes to vibes, eventually I will have to do a podcast episode, or maybe just a reaction to what it means to just vibe and the absence of intellect. It's if you think I'm referring to a certain person that we've already talked about, yes, I'm talking about Drake and his new album. Eventually, I will.
I haven't listened to it. I'm not going to be quite honest. I don't understand why he can't just sit down, take a breather. Like
His
I
mind.
think that's the one because people try to say that he's the Taylor Swift of music, and I don't care how you feel about that woman. The one thing I will say that she does is that she actually does know when to stop.
Yeah.
Like that's the one thing because she dropped that album last year or whatever.
Uh huh.
Wasn't that great. Wasn't that great. But she dropped that album. She finished up her tour. She only did that because it was part of the tour. Once the tour was done, haven't really seen her except for the Grammys. Have not seen her. They don't even know if they're gonna get the Reputation Taylor's version anytime soon, right? She hasn't done anything. She could have, but she didn't. So that's why I don't understand why that man just cannot. It's like every like 3 months there's like a new album, and I just don't understand why he can't sit down. Anyway, I'm done because I'll be on that all night. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing
Listen, I
it.
have to. I'll eventually get to that album because I'm like, man, I have no like desire to hear this. But of course, for the reaction community and just to give my thoughts, I do at least want to tackle this just so I can rant about it because I've already been told, like, yeah, this is bland. I'm like, I figured that was going to be the case.
I've heard that from other people as
Mhm.
well.
So yeah, moving on, we're gonna wrap up the interview with a couple more questions here. Just a little from a more inspirational standpoint, like what has been like the most rewarding part of your career thus far?
Making my clients happy never gets old. Never gets old. Like just seeing how satisfied they are with my work,
Mm-hmm.
getting recognition and praise from my bosses, and the people that I work with, my colleagues, getting all of these really cool speaking opportunities, and people being like, hey, I saw your work, I saw the things that you're doing, and I want to work with you. Or I want you to come speak, I want you to come teach, I want you to come do this because they're seeing the things that I'm doing. That just never gets old, and I love it. And it's been like an upward thing since last year. Last year it really just like went crazy and it's still going, so I'm thankful, like truly.
That's always good to hear, and I'm glad
Mm.
that you are getting the opportunities, but also glad that you are able to make your clients happy. That I think that is the biggest thing that anybody can take away from this is like people who work with you when they give you those good reviews and when you do good work for them and that they are
Mhm.
able to succeed well beyond their imaginations. I think that brings an incredible amount of joy, not only just for some of the stuff that we do, but just in general, knowing that we gave it our all and we are able to reap the benefits of those of that. So
Yeah.
more praise to you for doing what you do because we need more of that. We definitely do. And
Yeah.
I'm going to end off at least the interview part of this episode with one last question because again, it is Black History Month. So, as a black woman and as a black lawyer, what is the one thing you want young black girls to take away from this?
Don't let anyone tell you you can't do something. Because I don't see a lot of black women doing the type of legal work that I'm doing,
Hmm.
specifically with a law firm, because there may be a few that are in-house. I'm not trying to say I know every black woman attorney out there,
Right.
but you don't see as many doing like the video game law side of things.
Hmm.
And sometimes I'm like literally the only one in the room that looks like me. And my thing is, I don't want anybody to ever feel like they can't do something. Like, just because you don't see a lot of us doing it does not mean that you can't do it. And I try to encourage other black girls, like, do what you love to do. Don't get boxed in. Obviously there are people that need to do criminal law, family law, personal injury law, whatever. And those are very lucrative and rewarding positions. And for people that love them, I know that they're doing great and they're going to continue to do great. But and this goes to any career area, but I'm speaking specifically to law, but just do the thing that you love to do and don't let anybody put you in a box. And don't think that you being black and you being a woman is going to hinder you from doing it, because mind over matter still exists. Like, yes, it may be a different journey for you, but it's not impossible for you. Again, it may be a different journey for you, but it's not impossible for you. So, yeah, keep keep doing it. Just keep going.
Thank you for that inspiration. Thank you, Daphne, for joining us. I definitely thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. But before
Yes.
we get out of here, there's a little one more caveat, of course. I like to do a little bit of a lightning round with you really quickly.
Oh
So,
God.
yes, yes, at the top of your head, just name the first thing that comes to mind when I give you this
I'm
question. Now,
scared.
this is music-based, obviously, because we have a love for music, so of course I have to throw this in there so that way,
Uh-oh.
maybe take you a little bit off balance, but don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Okay.
All right, let's start. Starting with Tink or Ariana Grande.
Wait, what?
Just choose one.
You said Tink or Ariana Grande?
Yes.
That's not fair.
I started off.
I will leave. No, no, I will leave.
You will
No,
leave.
I will leave. I
Hey,
will leave.
listen. This isn't just
That is
get rid of
not
one. I
that
just
you
want
already know that that's not fair. I love both of them.
I
No.
know. Okay, let's give you a more fair one then.
Okay.
Maybe this is a little more fair. Let's see. Taylor Swift or Sabrina Carpenter?
Sabrina Carpenter.
Sabrina Carpenter or Billie Eilish?
Sabrina Carpenter.
Okay. Sabrina Carpenter or Chappelle Roan?
Sabrina Carpenter.
Okay. Cool. All right. Tim's or Sensia?
Tim's.
Okay. Nice choice. Alex Eiley or Cleo Soul?
Alex Isley.
Okay. Alex Isley or Snow Allegra?
Alex Isley.
Good choice. Lucky Day or Leon Thomas?
Ugh.
Let's go trip you up one of these
Wait,
questions.
wait. This is tough. This is tough because now they're both kind of like in the heat category for me.
Mm-hmm.
Leon Thomas is connected with that one rapper who likes to put things on shirts that he doesn't need to and
Uh-uh.
have crazy tweets. And then Lucky Day has that whole like lack of child support and being a dad and some other stuff.
Mhm.
Oh, this is tough. If I had to pick just based off the music, I'll say Leon Thomas.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll just say Leon.
Got you, got you. All right. Uh, original manga or anime adaptation?
Original manga.
Got you. You prefer a seasonal show or a movie?
Seasonal show.
Okay. Last question. Everyone knows the song Angel. Do you prefer Layla Hathaway's cover or do you prefer the original Anita Baker version? I,
Damn it.
I had to ask because this one was a hard one for me because I was just like,
Oh no.
anytime I get a
Ah.
question, everyone was like, no, you gotta pick Layla. I'm like, I love Layla, but damn, yo, I love Anita. Like, I can't
It
pick.
took me a long time to like Anita Baker's voice. And I don't want her to hear this because she'd be getting mad at people.
No, I know.
It took me a long time because my dad is a huge Anita Baker fan, and it took me
Mhm.
a while to actually like appreciate her voice. But I've always liked Layla's voice.
Okay.
So that's why I'm just like,
Listen, I understand.
that's a hard one.
The first time I heard her contort her voice to do more than just like one or two chords on a snarky puppy cut, I was like, yeah, she one of them ones. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, she got it. But when it comes to this in particular, I always have a hard time because people will be quick to say Layla, and I'm one of those ones who's like, I don't know because I love it. And I love what
Yeah.
Layla did with the song, but I love Anita's version still. Maybe it's because I guess it depends on the whatever mood I'm in.
That does make a difference.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference. And, for nostalgia purposes, it's like, well, she's the originator. So it's like a part of me wants to go with that. But like, I also remember the fact that growing up, like her voice, like, because I just be like that sweet, sweet, like it just always had like that, like,
Hey,
like it just always had like, sound like she had something in her throat or something. Like, I just was not like a huge fan
I
of
got
it as a kid.
you. Mhm.
And I feel like it took me to like my mid to maybe like going into late 20s for me to be like, I love her voice. Like now I can see like the reasons why I probably didn't like it as a kid because I was obviously a kid and kids
Mhm.
they like certain things, right? But now as an adult, it's like I can appreciate the depth and the richness and the warmth of her voice.
Mhm.
But even still, like Layla is one of those people where it's like, I mean, she's music royalty anyway, but I've always had an appreciation for her voice. Like it was never a question in my mind. So that's why my mind kind of wants to be more on that being the answer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hey, I get it. Trust me, I get it.
Mm.
And for me, I think because I have like contraltos that sing in my family, and it's quite a bit of them, is why I had such an appreciation for her voice, even though for some reason, when I was younger, I thought her music was like a lot older than what it was, and then as I got older, I'm like,
That's
wait,
also the thing.
yeah,
That was also the thing. Like it just sounded very old and you just felt
mhm,
like, oh yeah, that's mom and dad music. That's granny music. Like when you were a kid,
right,
right? And I think that was also part of it. It's very grown music.
mhm,
But I love a good contralto. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I love a good deep voice
yeah,
like person. Like Coco Jones is an example. Like
yes,
she has like that type of contralto voice where it's like, oh, I love it. Like it's very rich, very very like warm, has that depth to it.
mhm,
Like you can almost color it. But my thing with Anita was like, I think it was like a style and voice thing because it's like I did earlier, like it just sounds like something's just like right there,
mhm,
like right
mhm.
here specifically, like just right here, like at this part of the neck, and it's just stuck there, but she's still singing. Like
Right.
that's how I felt as a kid, you know.
I got you. I got you. I ain't gonna torture you no more. Those are some of the rapid fire questions. I was like, I just want to be able to trip
You
somebody up one time, but
you opened up like swinging with Tink and Ariana. Like that was so
I'm
unnecessary.
sorry, but I knew that was gonna get you. I'm like, yo, she gonna be mad at me for doing this, but I gotta do
Like I'm over here just like this. What? I'm over
it.
here like
Yeah, like
which
you. I know, I know. My apologies, but I wanted to do it just to see what your reaction would be. So that's why I
that's
was like, let me move on
crazy.
because I had some more lined up just in case. But anyway, guys, this has been a very, very, very great episode, very fantastic episode. And once again, thank you to my guest Daphne Benford-Smith, Esquire, for joining me on this episode. And I'm glad that we got a chance to highlight her because we had Maho on this podcast, but I never got a chance to have Daph specifically. So I'm just
Mm,
glad I was able to bring her aboard, and I'm glad that she accepted the invite and made this episode what it was. So once again, thank you, Daphne, for joining me. I really,
thank
really
you for having me. Yeah, no, thank you for having
appreciate
me.
it. Once again, we are covering Black pros, Black content creators because it is Black History Month. You already know what time it is. Before we get up out of here, is there anybody else that you would like to plug or any other company that you would like to plug before we dip?
Yeah, so one thing I will say is Aerial Night Studios, they are a Detroit-based indie video game studio, Black owned. I did a collaboration with them where we created a publishing agreement template guide. And it's very useful for those in the video game industry, but even those that aren't, you might still find it useful. So definitely go to Aerial Night Studios website. You can Google it and find it. And you'll see the template on their website. I've also posted it, I think, on my socials and stuff as well. I need to make sure I circulate that around again. But definitely check out the game and stuff that they're doing. They're allowing people to be a part of the game making process for like their new game. So if you join their Discord, you'll be able to do that. Um, and yeah, they're doing a lot of really great things. He's done Neil, who is the owner. He's done a lot of really great things in the video game space as a black indie developer. So definitely check out his stuff. Um, Always support me at Hold on Law. I'm always taking clients. So yeah, I'm always taking clients, and so I would love to help some more folks get their legal stuff done, get their rights asserted and protected. And also Studio Maho, we're gonna be doing some cool things for DreamCon. We're gonna have at least one party that I know of, possible on another one, but we're definitely gonna have one party in collaboration with Land Party Studios out from New York. So definitely excited about that. And it's gonna be here in Houston. So this is Maho territory, Maho County. So we gonna be outside and I'm excited about it. We're gonna have a booth this year, and Pat's gonna have his One Piece panel once again. It's gonna be bigger and better this year. And I might be doing a few collaborations on some panels and stuff as well. So DreamCon 2025 is gonna be exciting. So make sure that you are there so you don't miss out on all the action, or at least here in Houston, so you don't miss out on the parties and the action and the things we got. So that's all I got.
Sounds good to me, and I will be making an effort to be out in Houston, even if I'm not in full, con preparation mode because I've, trying to take a little bit of a break. But
Yeah.
still, it's like it's Houston, guys. Come on, and then of course
Oh yeah.
I got Daphne out there. We've got a lot of fam that's participating in DreamCon anyway. So more or less, I'm going to make efforts to try and be out there by the end of May, beginning of June. So that's all I'm gonna say on that. With that, guys, we're going to go ahead and do the rundown. If you're not familiar with the rundown, of course, this is where we shout out all the podcasts, the business owners, content creators, Black artists, anybody that's, out here that has supported this podcast. Obviously, we want to be sure that we give you a shout out, as always, at the end of each episode. First and foremost, again, big shout out to our Patreon subscribers that we do have. All 6 of y'all, we still appreciate y'all. Again, no matter the number, I still appreciate the support no matter what. Thank you for helping us keep going. And thank you for continuing to tune in. I will say that once one person ended up buying my GNX reaction, which of course I had to take off of YouTube, obviously, and put onto the Patreon. So if you were able to check that out, some person bought the clip. I definitely appreciate that. With that in mind, let's go ahead and get this going for the podcast shout outs. Obviously, big shout out to Inside the Mind of a Blurred, the other crew that I'm a part of. Definitely big shout out to Mike Check Waifu always for your daily weekly seasonal anime. Please be sure that you check them out. Big shout out of course to Tell and Polo for that. Big shout out to Blanime Podcast. They have recently resurfaced, so big shout out to Mike and Sane for doing their thing. And to the crew at Worst Gen, I don't know if they will ever come back or if they will. Big shout out to them as always, because in conjunction with Anime, they had Anime After Dark, and I always got to give them props for the work that they put in for 2 years. So big shout out to y'all.
Wait, they said they might be coming back for DreamCon. I don't know
Ooh,
if that's still a thing,
ooh,
but their AAD is supposed to be coming back. That's what the streets was saying.
I'm
I saw I saw
ooh,
they had tweeted it. They had tweeted it. So
I'm about to call GB. I'm be like, yo, if it's true, then
they tweeted it because I remember being like, because I want them back so bad.
yeah, listen, they forced me to buy a day pass. Damn it.
Yeah, no, that they tweeted this like
Okay.
after the announcement of it being in Houston. They tweeted this, so I'm
Well, okay.
hoping that this is really going to be a thing, and we're going to get some sort of AAD reunion
Yeah,
special. I don't know.
fingers crossed on that one.
No pressure, GB.
No, no, yeah.
But all pressure at the same time.
Yes, indeed.
Um, yeah.
All right. Big shout out to Truth and Transparency podcast with Brother X, the culture scientist, and Mr. Smith. Dad needs to talk with Rob, the father of Vash. Geek Set podcast. We're on that later. Anime Junkies, 3 Weaves in a podcast. Those Anime Girls, The Commute, and Black Geek Energy. For our Black authors, big shout out to Elena Graham. And of course, big shout out to Kay Renee, who is going under the pen name Sedona Rose. Please be sure that you check out all of their works. Of course, all are available on Amazon Kindle. If you are not using Amazon at this point, I will have to get you back with another source, because right now I think that's the only thing that they're on, but more on that later. To our content creators, of course, Off Black Mag with Aaron, HBCU Anime with Evan. Big shout out to Cerberus Entertainment. Shout out to Tatted Poodle, the Geechee Gamer. Shout out to Shelby with Simply Janine, Simply Baked, and Rose Less Traveled. Shout out to Strange Keith, and of course, Toasty Marshmallow. And of course, shout out to the Corner 5, Simone, Courtney 5, Chris, and Sham. And shout out to Bird Mind Productions with Scuba Steve and Alpha for our Black artists, of course. NASA, Scoozy, Jack JackUnionfield.me, Ellis Quinn, RJ Stackhouse, Quarter, Tyrone Leak Jr., Ari Lachelle, Zach Hines, and Fortresses. Elena, once again, she's also a singer. For those who didn't catch that episode, that was back in 2022. Please be sure you check it out. Zainab, and of course, Imogen. And for our Black businesses, shout out to Already Paid by Dre, Fresh Nerds, Righteous Minds by Timo, KS's Brand by Christina, Cream Cosmetics by Naima, Mind Over Money by Tremaine, Studio Maho, as always. Big shout out again to Daphne Benford-Smith and Hold On Law. Shout out to Concept Moon. She designs too with my girl Erin. Black Magic / Lit Wands with Low and T. H4 Creative by Zenobia. Real Estate Stone by Meredith. Soul by Belle Ma Mariah. GVGVO with NASA. Bad Influence with my girl Jay. And Scrappy Sentiment by Sappy. Whew. Okay. All right. How can the people follow you and follow your work, Miss Daphne?
Don't. I'm kidding.
Oh,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I got enough followers. No, I'm kidding. Big Esquire Bay on Blue Sky. That's Big BIG Esquire ESQBAE Bay. On Blue Sky. I'm also Attorney Daphne on Instagram. Again, that's just Attorney Daphne. You can also go on holdonlaw.com to learn more about our law firm and all the amazing things that we're doing. And then studiomaho.com for just updates and things that we have going on for the studio. You can also follow us on Instagram. You can type in Studio Maho and find us. We also are on Blue Sky at Studio Maho, or I think it might be official Studio Maho. Anyway, if you type it in, you might be able to find it. So yeah, we have a lot of things coming up. So be sure to follow and keep in touch.
That's what we like to hear. That's what we like to hear. So with that, be sure that you like, share, and subscribe to the Chaotic Culture Podcast on your favorite DSP. Be sure that you subscribe to the Patreon for early access to the podcast and bonus episodes of the podcast. You can subscribe at any of the 4 levels, whether it be $3, $5, $7, or $10. Once again, we appreciate your support. You can follow our Facebook page at Chaotic Culture Podcast. You can also follow us on IG at Chaotic Culture Pod, as well as on Threads at Chaotic Culture Pod. You can follow us on Blue Sky, just at chaoticculture.bsky.social. And if you want to, for whatever reason, you can follow us on X/Twitter at chaoticculture1. You can follow me, Ked the Pro, that's K3D the Pro on all social media. Of course, you can follow Miss Nasa at I'm the Caso on all social media. You can follow Miss Sappy at Scraps14 on all social media. You can follow my boy Law at L.JR_96 on Instagram and Law96_ on X. You can follow Jay at Lee Trey on all social media. Of course, you can follow Scuba Steve at Scuba Steve 1428 on
Clean Steve. Sorry.
Yes. I wanted him to actually come on here and do it, but he never responded back to me. So he might be outside. That's all. Either that or kid. He might have the kids. You know how it is. Big shout out to Skylar. Skylar gets all the love, not you, Steve.
I'm crying.
Let me know before he kicks me off the podcast show. I'm stressed. But anyway, guys, this has been another edition of the Chaotic Culture Podcast. And once again, thank you to Daphne for pulling up and having this episode with us. So until next time, folks, remember, embrace the culture. Chaos rules. Be blessed. Be safe. God is love. And we are out of here. Deuces.
Bye.
So what's the word?
You are now tuned in to the Chaotic Culture Podcast. And